Hey, and welcome to another edition of Sports Card Investing Targets, where we're going to take a look at several cards which might be worth investing in. This week, we're going to take a look at PSA 9 versus PSA 10 price action, just like we did last week. We had some good feedback on the video last week and the article, so we're going to try that again. And just a reminder to everybody to please subscribe to SportsCardInvestor.com's Market Mover subscription. If you use the promo code GRINDERS, you're going to get 20% off your first payment on any subscription. I recommend the Market Mover subscription. That's the $50 subscription, I believe, and you'll get $5 off your first payment there. If you get an annual up front, you'll get 20% off your entire payment for that annual. So that's a good one to check out there. And please give us a like on our video and a subscribe on our YouTube channel, and let's get into those cards. And as always, go to our RotoGrinders sports cards section and check out the articles and videos that we're putting up. We put up several articles throughout the week, several videos, and we got a ton of content. It's all evergreen for the most part. You can go there and check out and see what cards we're recommending and what players we've been buying over the last few weeks or so. So as I mentioned, this week I decided to take a look at PSA 9 price action compared to PSA 10 price action on the same players' cards. The first player I wanted to focus on was LeBron James. I noticed that his cards had been moving pretty well in the Market Movers price movements by card list, and I thought that he would be a good guy to give people a couple options if they want to buy some of the more valuable LeBron cards out there. The first card we're going to look at is LeBron James Topps Chrome Basketball 2003 base PSA 10 versus PSA 9. And as you can tell from this chart, his PSA 10 has been on a bit of an upward swing lately that doesn't look like the PSA 9 has quite caught up to yet. You can see it's starting to with its most recent sale. It's kind of taken a little swing towards the upside, but overall, the trend on the PSA 10 seems like it's moving a little bit faster than the PSA 9, giving us an opportunity for some price action discrepancy to take advantage of. I noticed while taking a look at the PSA 9 versus PSA 10 price action that back on May 28th, before the PSA 10 started going up, the PSA 9 was worth about 35% of that PSA 10 value. And as of June 15th, it was only worth about 31% of that value. So if the PSA 9 catches back up to that same pace, it could be as much as a 10% price increase in that PSA 9 card. I think that's a reasonable estimate. And right now you can buy that PSA 9 card for about $2,700. So a 10% swing to the upside on that card could be a $275 gain for you. Just be conscious of where you're selling, because if you sell on eBay, they charge you a 10% fee that would wipe out that $275 and basically give you a wash. So I recommend checking out alternative selling spots. I use LetGo a lot. I use Facebook Marketplace. Those have been working out pretty well for me, saving me on those eBay selling fees. Worth checking out. The next LeBron card that I wanted to check out was his Prism rookie, which is not his actual rookie year, but it's his 2012 base PSA 10 versus PSA 9 cards. 2012 was the first year of those Prism cards, thus the rookie quote-unquote status of the card. As you can see from this chart, the PSA 9 has been somewhat flat for about a month and a half or so, while the PSA 10 has kind of been moving. It's had a huge upward spike. That might have been somebody making a mistake with their purchase there, but it's come down a little bit. But generally, overall, the trend in PSA 10, you can see a big difference between the flatness of that PSA 9, and that's what interests me about this card and kind of draws me towards that PSA 9 as a potential investment. As of June 15th, the PSA 9 was valued at 26% of the PSA 10 price. And before the spike in the PSA 10 price, the PSA 9 was about 29% of the value of that card. So it gives us another opportunity for a card that gives us a potential for a 10% gain in the near term. Possibly even more if the trends in general catch up to that 35% value of PSA 9 to 10 of the Topps Chrome rookie card. If I was buying the 2012 LeBron James Prism PSA 9 card, I'd be targeting it around $336. So with it being the NFL offseason, I also wanted to take a look at some NFL players. And obviously when you're focusing on NFL, the best players to target are the quarterbacks. And I figured I'd take a look at some of the biggest quarterback names, since hasn't been a whole lot of buzzy news around the NFL lately with all the talk about NBA season coming back and MLB potentially not having a season. NFL is kind of in the back burner right now, and people don't really have it on the front of their minds right now. So if we look at the Lamar Jackson chart, so you can see a clear upward trend of the PSA 10 versus the PSA 9, which has been kind of on a downward slope lately. So I think that's a clear divergence where we can take advantage of buying that PSA 9. And it's relatively inexpensive too. Right now you can get it for about $149. I'm talking about the PSA 9 Lamar Jackson Prism card. This would probably be a card that I'm looking to hold on to longer term too. Buying at $149, I think that's a card that you wait and see if it gets some significant appreciation in it before you look into selling. But if you buy it now, it looks like you can get about a 10% discount on it relative to the price action on how PSA 9 and PSA 10 tend to trend together. The next card I wanted to look at was Patrick Mahomes 2017 Silver PSA 10 versus PSA 9. This is another one where the chart on the PSA 9 seems like it's a little bit flat, trending up though, versus the PSA 10, which looks like it has more exaggerated price moves. As you can see back here in March, April, the prices were a lot closer together, and the gap started widening over here at the end of April, and PSA 9 never really caught up to that price trend. So we're looking at it now, and you see the PSA 10 is coming down a little bit. Like that PSA 9 is coming down a little bit too. But it might be a good opportunity to get in on a Patrick Mahomes rookie if it ever catches back up to the price differences back here in beginning of April, end of March. Then you could have a pretty significant gain on this PSA 9 and get yourself in at a good discounted price. I did note in my article on May 24th, before prices were swinging on that PSA 10, the PSA 9 was worth about 24% of that PSA 10 price. And back on April 11th, that number was 28%. As of June 15th, the PSA 9 was valued at only 20%. That gives you an idea of the price differentiation between the 9 and the 10, and kind of a range of outcomes that you could potentially expect. I mean, if we're talking about a card that's valued at currently 20% of the PSA 10 price, and at one point was valued at 28%, that's about a 40% gain from current levels. Obviously, this is speculation, and there's a lot of variables involved in those prices, but that just kind of gives you an idea of a potential window and the type of discount you might be able to get on this Patrick Mahomes PSA 9. The final card that I wanted to look at was Ichiro's Topps Project 2020 card. If you look at the price movements list over on Market Movers at sportscardinvestor.com, you can see that Topps Project cards are all over this list when you sort by change in percentage to the downside. You got this Tony Gwynn's down 83%, Frank Thomas down 81%, Bob Gibson down 77%. Seems like everybody is bailing on these cards right now, and it could be an instance of throwing away the baby with the bathwater, because Ichiro's card is actually a nice looking card, and it's got a low population. It only has about 1,300 cards in existence, I believe. And when you compare that to some of the more recent Topps Project 2020 cards, I think they had populations of nearly 100,000 on some of those cards. That is where some people started getting flashbacks of the 90s and started seeing a market that was getting frothy. And I think it dragged down all these cards with it. So it's important to remember that the cards in the 90s suffered because they were being overprinted. And Ichiro's card is really not that overprinted relative to the other cards in the set, and honestly relative to other cards in existence for other brands and some valuable parallels. So I think that Topps Project 2020 has some value to it as a collectible, and I think that the low print run of that Ichiro card makes him interesting, especially with it being the first card in the set. It's kind of an iconic card already. The artwork on it is great. Ben Baller did the artwork on it, and you can see from this chart, it continues to fall. Like when I did the article, it was at 1175, and now it's fallen below 1,000 in 900. It's starting to look pretty decent If this was a stock chart, I'd be looking to see where the price was consolidating before it made this huge parabolic move up. And I see that kind of in this range of, 700 to 800. Looks like kind of a support level there if I was judging it like I judge a stock chart. So I'd look for it to get into that range before I consider buying it. Maybe monitor it for a little bit once it's there. See if it continues to just drop. You don't want to catch a falling knife, but if you see it start to consolidate on any of these levels like 800, 750, if you go down to that 550 range, anywhere in this little range here is interesting. If the card starts to consolidate, just keep an eye on it. Don't overpay for this card because we don't know what's going to happen to these Topps project cards. That's it for this week's edition. Thanks for joining us, guys. Be sure to give us a like on the video below and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And check out our Sports Card Grinders show this week. Jeff Wilson joined us from sportscardinvestor.com. Reminder to sign up for the Market Mover subscription using the promo code GRINDERS, and you can get 20% off your first payment on any subscription. As always, I recommend the Market Mover subscription. That's where you're going to get the access to all the great tools and charts, and that's what's going to help you with making your investment decisions when you're buying cards on eBay. It tells you what price to buy these cards at, basically. So it's a valuable tool. It'll save you a lot of money in the long run, and you definitely need a tool like that when you're making these big investment choices. So make sure to check that out, and we will see you next week.